Okay, so I'm going to do another lesson on posture. I'm going to be looking at mostly the left hand, because most of the right hand stuff I've covered already in another video. As much as possible as well, I'll be linking to videos of really good guitar players, so you can see this stuff in action. So when I link stuff, do try and watch it and pay extra special attention to that guitarist's left hand and how he approaches various things. So posture is really important. I'd say whenever people are having problems with stretches, they think they have very small hands, or they just don't have the strength to do bar chords, or they have trouble playing 3-note per string scales, or just playing fast legato. About 3/4 of the time the problem is just posture, and then it's just a matter of practice. So I'm not trying to do very specific things here. I'm going to give you principles. So right off the bat, left leg, right leg, standing, sitting, it's not very important at all. The main important thing is actually that your wrist is fairly relaxed and neutral, so it's not crooked or either way. Most commonly you can see people crook like this. Generally a good way to solve this is actually just point the guitar neck up a bit and out a bit. So if you're down here and it's very crooked, you can point the guitar neck up and out a bit, and that was a lot better there for my wrist. I'll do that again from the side so you can see. So the guitar's quite low and horizontal and quite into my body. If I try and get in at the first fret to do a bar, for example, my wrist gets horribly crooked. But if I lift the instrument, and you can do this just like if your right leg is up, that'll help as well. Then I can get my wrist comfortably in underneath the guitar and it's fairly straight. And that applies whether you're playing lead or rhythm, standing, sitting, left leg, right leg, baseball bat or classical. Doesn't matter, you want your left wrist to be as straight as possible at all times. Okay, now there's two basic styles of guitar posturing. They both have their strengths and correspondingly they have weaknesses. The first one is the baseball bat position. Now this is kind of where you have your thumb over the top of the neck and then your fingers kind of just fall into place here. Now this is a very good position for executing bends from. I mean, that's the whole point, is your thumb is over the top and that gives you the leverage to turn your wrist, and you kind of use your thumb as a pivot then, and that lets you push the strings up. If you watch really good guitar players play bends, they use nearly no finger strength when pushing up. They actually just turn their wrist, and I'm going to throw up some links now to some really good guitar players, and I want you to watch their left hands and watch how they bend. Another nice thing is there's a Jimi Hendrix video, and they give you a great camera shot actually of kind of his left hand from the side and slightly behind, and you can really see that his fingers do nearly no work. It's almost all wrist. You can't do this in classical position, it's just not possible. The other thing is as well, when your hand is angled like this, if you turn your hand, your first finger actually pulls the string up and down. So it's possible to do first finger vibrato with the baseball bat position, and again, it's not really going to work out in classical position. The main problems with the baseball bat approach to the guitar are that, first of all, you can't actually use your first finger to bar. If you bring your thumb over the top of the neck, your first finger can't really get all 6 strings. You can do partial bars and throw your thumb over the top and grab a bass note, and in fact I'm going to show up some links later where we get a lot of guys doing that, and that's acceptable, but you can't play a proper normal bar. The next thing is you don't get very much stretch at all. If your thumb is over the top of the neck, your first finger is angled this way, and your last 2 fingers actually have equivalent reach. Your third finger and fourth finger actually reach as far as each other. So you tend to see when people have their thumb over the top of the neck, they don't make big stretches, and they tend to have a bad pinky. They tend to be very good with fingers 1, 2 and 3, especially 1 and 3, and then not so good with finger 4. And that's just a matter of posture. It's not that they were born with a terrible little finger. It's just that their approach to the instrument doesn't allow them to effectively use that finger. So obviously then we need another kind of posture for when we want to do bar chords, for when we want to reach out, and when we want to use all 4 fingers effectively. And that posture is the classical position. It's not really classical in the way that most of us do it. I'm going to link you some real classical guitar. Pay very close attention to the left hand, especially when there's bars and fast things. You can see that most of the time fingers are spread, and the thumb, instead of being over the top and the fingers angled this way, the thumb comes down a bit and the fingers are parallel with the frets. And then this lets you get big stretches because your first finger now is angled down the fretboard and your little finger is angled up, and they can actually reach out much farther. Next thing is that you can actually do bars from this position, because your thumb is opposite your first finger, and that's lets you squeeze in with the clamp, and that gives you the pressure you need, and your first finger is flat across all 6 strings, and then you can do full bar chords. I have some cool links now of a couple of the guys I linked doing bends and baseball bat stuff doing bars, and when they do the bars their thumb comes around behind the neck. Robin Ford's a good example, and then later on he's not playing bars, he's playing kind of thumb over the top and jazz chord style. But at the start he is actually playing bars and thumb is right behind the neck. I couldn't find any stuff of David Gilmour just pumping bar chords. Again, mostly thumb over the top of the neck, and mostly he plays parts of bar chords or grabs the bass note with his thumb. But towards the end of this video I find him kind of playing a few bar chords and thumb behind the neck. Jimi Hendrix, I haven't found anything of him playing a full bar chord. It's not really possible with your thumb all over the top of the neck, and he seems to always have his thumb over the top of the neck. But if you guys can find me a video of Jimmy playing like normal bar chords, I'd definitely like to link that. That'd be very cool. Also, Joe Satriani actually tends to play with a very kind of thumb over the top blues rock kind of grip. But when he needs stretches or funny chords or difficult legato stuff, bam, straight into kind of thumb behind the neck in classical position. The Mystical Potato Head Groove Thing video is really good for that, because you can actually see him tilt the guitar neck up so he can comfortably get in underneath and make those huge big stretches and hammer down really hard. Nice thing about classical as well is if you have small hands, this maximizes your reach, and because you can use all 4 fingers effectively, this is really the go-to choice for really monstrous metal shredders. Again though, every single time there's a bend, thumb comes over the top of the neck. Another thing to point out with classical is the thumb is opposite but pointing up, like directly up towards the ceiling, not down along the neck. If you imagine, this is not a very comfortable position for your hand. This is. Okay, finally nowadays a lot of people hybridize these things. So I'd say almost all really good modern guitar players go between baseball bat and classical seamlessly, and also kind of use this kind of in-between position where they can kind of just inch a thumb over a bit for a bend, or they can inch it back for a stretch. I think Sean Lane and Andy James are the best examples of this, although Eric Johnson does it a bit too. So just to recap, the most important thing is the wrist is straight. Next thing is, for bends of any sort, you generally want your thumb over the top of the neck. It gives you leverage, and then you can push up with your arm strength rather than your fingers. It is possible to do it with the fingers, but you need iron fingers or light strings. On the other hand, if you want to do stretchy legato stuff or bar chords, then you need your thumb behind the neck to give you reach and that clamping strength from the thumb on the opposite side. Okay, I hope you enjoyed all the links.